So in my most recent solo cash cup video, a lot of you guys have been asking how to actually make it to the end game. And I realize it's a thing that a lot of people struggle with. So in this video, I'm going to be trying to help you guys out, showing what I do throughout the early and mid game, and how I set myself up for a good end game. So as for off spawn, I like to land up here. It has about 5 barrels. It used to have 8. But the main reason why I land here is because I do have a drop map. And since I do have the best drop, other players like SMH, Tyler, and Chamoy will dip off just purely because I have the best drop. And they know for 100% fact that they would die if they had contested me. But what's really important is I recommend you guys find a drop spot that is usually uncontested. It doesn't really matter how good it is. This POI only has 6 chests, and most of my loot is from rotating into surrounding areas. So the biggest thing is trying to find a drop spot that is uncontested. I recommend going on to Fortnite.gg and looking around on there, trying to find some uncontested split. And even if you are contested, don't force yourself to fight. So I believe this is the cash cup that I actually won with no guns. During your off spawn, you want to make sure where the quickest mats are. I know that big tree gives me about 80 and that rock gives me about 150 brick. So without even leaving off spawn, I can make sure I'm max wood and bricks, so that even if anyone pushes me, especially really early, I'll have more mats and I'll make sure I'm able to get away. So you can see here, leaving off spawn, 200 metal from the barrels, 300 brick from the rocks, and 200 wood from the trees. Another very important thing for the early game is making sure you have a plan. Every single cash cup, every single game, I'm doing the exact same thing, especially during this tournament where I wasn't using any guns. You can see I'm carrying these shield breaker EMPs. Then as you'll see pretty soon, I know that there's a vending machine here, and no one's usually here. At most there'll be one, and they're usually not on the vending machine. So it's pretty easy for me to just use EMPs and farm up gold. And the reason why I do that is because the main meta in the season is heal offs. So I buy my med kits, and I usually buy big pots if I do have enough gold. As you can see here, I find more gold from the cash register and more EMPs. So I buy out all the med kits, buy all the bigs, and this is where I get fought. I do cover this fight in another video that I'm making. But just to give you guys a brief overview, I make space and I try and cut off line of sight. That's a really big thing when you're running away. So even though we get fought there, I dip off. You do not have to fight every fight you see. So as you can see, there is another player there. My plan was just to hit the grapple on the launch pad. I didn't think he'd react fast enough to kill me, but unfortunately he places some walls. Then once again, I just make space and I'm trying to cut off line of sight. So even though I'm running into these players, I'm building away. I'm trying to use as much mats as possible. During the early game, when you have this much mats, you can afford to waste them, since you can refarm them quite easily. So I grapple away, build some more, not worried about using too many mats. So after I've been fought here, this is phase 2 of my off spawn plan. I like to rotate to these forecast towers. I didn't go up to this one, since people usually like it up there, plus I was getting fought by this guy. So I just decide to head to this forecast tower spawn. You can farm all these small things for like 5 metal each. And these windows give you about 4 metal build, so these are very, very useful to farm. Pop my bag, I pop my berries. You can see I'm farming every last bit of metal here. That allows me to get from 200 to almost 400 metal. Once again, I'm farming up my mat, and since I don't have my ideal loadout, which is 6 medkits, I know that there's another vending machine at Ruined. If I were to show you guys all my solo cash cup games, I'm doing the exact same thing every single time. So I'm landing at my drop spot, I'm getting EMPs, I'm rotating to this POI to get some gold. I usually rotate down here, I get these 5 barrels that are here. If no one's there, I hit the pad, and then I usually go over to the forecast tower, farm my metal, and then I go to Ruined. I try and do this loot route the exact same every single game, and it makes sure my early game is more consistent. So let's say about now, we're starting to get into the mid game. And personally, my goal, since I'm using no guns, my plan is trying to get my winning loadout. I was trying to get my heals as early as possible since nothing else really mattered. So I decided to pick up these crash pads just for a bit of extra movement, and I'm trying to buy the last medkit and big pot. So I do find that other big pot, but I'm really still trying to look for EMPs just to buy that medkit. I see a kid there, I build. I'm just trying to make sure to stay in these big open areas, which is a very underrated thing that people wouldn't think about. Usually would rotate through POIs just to cut off your line of sight. But as you can see here, there's absolutely no one near me. And running the open is actually a fairly low risk play. So since I'm not max mats, I'm trying to think where I can get my max mats from. And I see this gas station here. Obviously tons of metal, quite a bit of brick, and quite a bit of trees around. So as I'm rotating there, I'm making sure I'm max mats. It's a very big thing. You want to make sure max mats at all times. Know where you're rotating to, have an off spawn plan, and I guarantee you'll be max mats. So you can see here, rotating on top, farming on metal. Once again, still absolutely no one near me. I'm pretty sure this gas station is one of the least looted spots in the game. That's something that I saw online somewhere. So it'll usually never be farmed. So I'm looking at where the zone is. I'm not going to go over exactly what zone predictions are this game, but you can see it's pulling up more top right, so it's probably to pull top right. So if you made it this far, you're trying to prepare yourself for the end game. I have pretty decent loot. Only thing that can make it better is one more medkit. But when you want to be boxing up in these early games, you don't want to just get dead center, which is about up here, because there's not much that you can farm, and there's going to be people on all sides of you. but I did try and get somewhere center. I even marked about where I want to go at reckless. And as I'm rotating through here, I'm just seeing if there's anything else I want. I did decide to take the flow barriers just for the extra movement. The reason why I decided to box up in a building or near mats that you can refarm is to make sure I'm max mats. So you can see here, I built out a brick box. I know all these walls are made of brick, and they usually give you like 40 brick each. So I decided to use that just to refarm, make a lot of boxes here. And see, look, I made 3 boxes and I'm still max mats. Make sure max mats as much as possible. This will ensure even if you get fought and even if you get grief, you won't really be putting yourself into a bad position. And as you can see here, I have my ideal loot and I'm just waiting. As I'm waiting this cone, I do unfortunately get fought by this player. And the main thing is I am running through this building just so that he has absolutely no clue where I am. I'm trying to run at the back, just trying to get away, as far away from him as possible. Build up some brick. I see he's still pushing, so I place the wall on the ramp just to get away from him. Then I grapple away. And another thing I will lose the cover, I'm trying to break line of sight by going behind this building so he can't see me. And since I did see this brick up here earlier, I know that there's probably a player in here, so I try to go past them. So this guy's more likely to fight him instead of me, which is what he ends up doing. So even though I'm getting full keyed, I'm using that grapple to get as far away, trying to break line of sight and drag my focus on other enemies. You can see I only took 17 damage, only used 15 brick. And as you can see here, I get into a spot where I'm not gonna get fought, and then I refarm. I realize there's not enough brick to refarm, and I don't see anyone over there. I decided to base up over here just to refarm my mats. And as we're getting closer to endgame, I do unfortunately get fought here once again. The second I realized he didn't instantly take my wall, I instantly created 2 more boxes. And that's just so he might be deterred to fight me. But since he's not, I place a stair behind me since I know he is dropping on this back wall. Just so there's that extra cover so when he breaks he can't shoot me. So it's once again that breaking line of sight. I'm building more, and then I see this player here. So some people might think, oh, enemy, I should go to the left here. No, you want to go past the enemies. This guy could have shot me, but I could have built just straight above me. And even if this other guy did keep keying me, he'd be more likely to key this guy instead. And as you can see, once again, still only used about 18 builds. And I boxed up in wood here just to refarm my wood. So sure, I'm unable to refarm my brick, but then since luckily Zen pulls back to the left, I know I can go through reckless and get some brick. So as you can see there, I'm literally 1 build off max, and that's just because I accidentally built some metal. That guy does shoot me for 100, and instantly I box up. I create 2 boxes in case he wants to push me, which luckily he doesn't. And then I just pop my bigs. Actually, I stand corrected. I popped 1 big and 2 flow berries, which definitely was the right decision. Trying to keep those bigs for later in the end game is very important. But don't worry about wasting them too much. As long as you're not being fought and not being griefed, your shield shouldn't matter too much. So since I did use all that brick, I decided to go back to the building I was at earlier and then refarm all my brick. I'm going to 7th zone with 555, and I'm still pretty good on land. And then once again, I'm grappling dead side. Make sure you're dead side of zone, make sure no one's near you. Whenever you do get fought, you can dip off and try and divert your attention onto other players. And then now you've made it to the end game. So what are the main takeaways from this? The most important thing is have a good drop spot. You want to make sure you're not being contested, and if you are being contested, it's only by 1 person and you don't have to fight them. So yeah, number 1, have a good drop spot. Number 2, have a good loot route. I've just found this loot route from trial and error, and I know what I need in order to set myself up for the end game. I need medkits and big pots, and I noticed that vending machines have medkits and big pots, so use those EMPs to farm up gold and buy those medkits and big pots. If I know I'm not already set by here, I'll usually go down, try and farm up some extra metal, and then I'll go over to rune reels. And if I'm still not max metal, I'll usually go over to this gas station. Third off, you want to make sure you don't grief yourself in the mid game. Don't go for anything too sketchy. Try not to go through buildings where you think there might be people. And probably the most important thing of all, make sure you're refarming when you're boxing it up. Don't just box up in the middle of nowhere and not refarm your mats. As you guys can see here, I'm going into endgame with 144 builds. The only builds that I used up were in this box that I'm currently in right now. And if you guys do have any more specific questions, leave them in the comments down below. I'll try my best to answer or create another video on them. I try to read every single comment. And also, before the video ends, I can't thank you guys enough for 1,000 subs. Off of that one video that blew up, I've gained 1,000 subscribers, and I'm now able to get monetized, which I should be monetized by the time this video comes out, so thank you guys. Anyways, I hope you guys took something good away from this video, and I hope you have a fantastic day.